Hey family, welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations with Isa Favored. We talk about life, we talk about everything that happens under the sun. Can you believe it that we're in November? Like, the year is almost done. We are in November, and before you know it, 2024 will be gone and we'll be saying hello to 2025. And you know that when we get to this time, November in South Africa, late November into December, we commemorate 16 days of activism against women, against gender-based violence. Actually, it's gender-based violence. It used to be women and children, but it's actually gender-based violence because we realize that gender-based violence can happen to any gender. And I thought, how do we do this? Ne? And in the process, then I thought, one day I was attending something and I met the guest that I'm having today. He was talking, on the day, the topic that he was talking about women's expectations from men. But we're not doing just that. But I love how he then dealt with the topic because he then spoke about the differences between men and women and how when those differences are not understood, they tend to lead to so much confusion in relationships that people have. Then there's confusion, then there's unnecessary stress on both parties. So I thought, let me have him so that we can just talk about these differences that we have and how these differences, if they are not understood, then we have what we call gender-based violence, because depending on how people are, then others, it really gets ugly, So, let me introduce my guest. I'm going to try and read his bio just a little bit. His name is Zitha Sipho. I love the name Sipho more than the other. So it's SS. The other name is Sipho. But when I read this, I was like, oh, Sipho, what a beautiful name. It's a beautiful name. When you name kids, you must name kids correctly. He's just a gift to all of us. So he is currently the chairperson of the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board. When somebody is incarcerated, that's the correct word. Before they come out, then they will be subjected to the parole board, where they then look at all, whether he's ready for parole and all that. And he has done a whole lot. Basically, he deals with a lot of issues of psychological issues, mental health, because he is also registered with the ASACHP. Oh, what a big abbreviation. So he's a specialist wellness counselor. He was a senior associate consultant for early childhood development. He deals with issues of sports. Right now, this year, he was amongst the drivers of the biggest, hey guys, someone won 1 million in Mpumalanga. If you're not in that space, he was among the founders and the drivers behind the people who founded in Mpumalanga Marathon. I was there, and it was like, and as I was working input, this guy who was assisting with the eyes, he's like, hey, 10 akakashaya umuntu sowuthola million njalo nje. We saw that day when a guy from Lesotho. The male was Lesotho and the female was from Kenya, right?
Yes.
They 1 million guys, like 1 million just for running. But we're not talking about that. We'll talk about that another day. Today we're talking. So welcome, Puti, and thank you for agreeing to be a guest on the show. He's a founder and the current Secretary General of SA Manifest. SA Manifest is an organization. He'll tell us a little bit more about that organization. But thank you for coming to help us address this, because these are everyday issues. But if those issues are not dealt with,
definitely. Thank you.
Okay. So let's start about SA Manifest, because that's the umbrella that it's one of the recent exciting things that happened in Bombay, And South Africa, the whole of South Africa was watching. Good, hey, Mpumalanga, ihambisa million, 2 million, kanjalo nje for ma 42. Yeah, SA Manifest. Please tell us. Thank you for coming through and tell us about SA Manifest, so that when we then get to the issue of these differences, because men are from Mars and women are from Venus. SA Manifest.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with the viewers as a Manifest. It's an organization that whose vision is simply to respond to the social ills, of which one of them is intimate partner violence, IPV. In the legislative framework in South Africa, they refer to that as domestic violence, because then they've got the Domestic Violence Act that speaks to that. Intimate partner violence is one of the issues that we actually focusing on as a social ill. But we look at a plethora of issues that affect men. Whether it's from a medical perspective, legal perspective, mental health, socio-cultural issues. So as a Manifest, what actually drove us is, as professionals, medical doctors, attorneys, we looked at the trend which suggests that men are violent, and not only to others but to themselves as well. You look at the suicide stats for men across the race, across social status, educational background. You find a professor, you wake up tomorrow, is dead.
He was in class. He was in class today.
Yes.
And tonight.
Yes. So we thought that we might need a different approach to the approach that seeks to condemn. We're looking at condemning the activities or the actions or the deeds which are violent in nature. But we want to support men to understand their space and understand the space of other men as well as women. Because violence by its nature, you subject those that are vulnerable, that are less powerful to you. It's very rare that you would find a situation wherein someone who is less physically or is less powerful subjecting others to violence. So we're looking at issues of toxic masculinity as to how can we best balance the space for men to understand where women are coming from, and to ensure that eventually from childhood to adulthood, we look at the factors that contribute to what a man is eventually. So that's SA Manifest, with all those professionals, medical doctors, attorneys, social workers, psychologists. So we are a team that looks into all of those issues.
So your focus when you founded it was men. That's why it says SA Manifest. It was like, let's get men sorted. Let's
get men to play their role as men. When you look at it from a scriptural perspective, you find that men was given a responsibility to take care of things. And even in our culture as Africans, men is given a responsibility to take care of things. So when we see things not going okay, the first to look at is where are men? Why are things going this way that they are going? Why are we finding all of these social ills? And then we say, men, let's see how best you can come back and play your role, and let's see if men take a position or a posture that says, not in my name shall there be a victim of domestic violence. Let's see if there will be a child that is subjected to violence, a woman, an elderly. Let's see if men take that posture to say, not in our name as a South African man.
Interesting. Interesting that you had to take it back to scripture to say man was given the role to lead.
Yes.
And nature in itself does not allow a vacuum.
Exactly.
So when now men don't lead, women rise up and lead.
Yes.
Ngoba nature doesn't allow a vacuum.
Exactly.
And when a woman takes up a position that was not his position,
Things get messed up. Those who are Christian would understand how we got to where we are biblically.
Yeah.
That a man was given a responsibility not to take from a particular tree, and man left those responsibilities, abjudicated
he left a vacuum.
responsibilities.
Yes.
And in that space, then we found ourselves where we are. And today again, when in a society you find wars, you find things that are not going okay, the first door to knock at is, where are the men of this society? So it is in that context. And when we begin to see men stepping forward to say, no, we want to sit down and get counseling, we are seeing a rise in men who are stepping forward, bringing their intimate partners to say, instead of going this route, I heard on the radio program that you can take this step and see how best, if a marriage or an intimate relationship is ending, because that is in nature, things do end.
Yes.
But how best can we end it in a manner that will not result into anyone getting hurt? It's enough the emotional hurt when a relationship, intimate relationship is ending. There's so much pain, but we don't want to transfer that pain to physical pain and to death. Let it be just that the two are separating and they are feeling the pain of separation. Let there be no any other pain.
Any other pain. Have you found, and we're gonna go on, have you found that with the work that you're doing, are you finding men responding?
Yes, last year around the period of 16 Days of Activism, in conjunction with the Premier's office, we had more than 200 men gathered in one shelter from across the province. And what seems to be coming out there is that men do wish or do desire to step forward, but not to step forward in a manner that society expects. For example, you will find that people will say, men don't cry. Men must cry. Men do cry, but men cry in their own way. So you can't have a head of the family when there's a problem is the first one to put their hands on top of their head. No. We cry, men cry their own way. So this is what society should understand, that men, the fact that you are not making sounds, it doesn't mean that you are crying. You are not crying. You are crying, but society should understand how men speaks. And for that very same reason, men should also understand how women speak.
Yes.
Because many instances where we find incidents of domestic violence, many men, their cry is that she disrespected me. Yes. So men take very serious the issue of being disrespected. Naturally, across all the races, whether you are in the UK, whether you are in China, when a man feels disrespected. So if we speak to men and say, let us look at how women speak naturally and see if we can find a way of understanding how they speak, so that our interpretation may not result into us perceiving them as insulting us or as disrespecting.
And I think, Asambe, let's go there. The differences, because when you get to that understanding, because when a woman will get to a point of sounding disrespectful, she feels not heard. She feels angivakali, ngiyazama. It ends up feeling like disrespect to you, to the man.
You see, genetically or biologically, men and women differ in how we express our views.
Yes. Yes.
I will use a very simple example. In a family in our rural areas, you find chickens. And you find this mother chicken, let us call it that way, when it has got chicks,
Yes.
its levels of aggression in defense of its chicks.
Yes.
So it's a natural phenomenon. That's what you find right across all animals. The motherly instinct. So when a woman feels that my territory is under attack, they then respond in a natural way, in a way that seeks to protect that territory. And because men, for some reasons, because there's been a shift from the way we have been doing things as Africans. So one leg is African, one leg is Western.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that then gives us problems when it comes to conflict resolution. In our culture as Africans, when there is something that you do not find, that you are not happy about from your wife, you would address the matter, and then if you don't find your way through, you speak to her aunt, not your aunt. You speak to her aunt.
Yes.
Can you please speak to umama? We have a difference when it comes to 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And there will be that chain of consultations.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in the Western culture, because Western culture is individualistic, you make your own decision, you see how you get through. African culture is collective.
Yes.
So we are disintegrating, or we are moving away from that African culture where we look things as a collective. So individualist culture, you say, it's my right, I can do whatever that I want to do with my life. But a collective culture says, no. When a woman gets married, does not marry to you individually,
Yes.
marries to the family. So whereas in the Western culture, it's one-on-one. So that is why you find instances when, even if there is a divorce, the Western way, you can't go and say, I want ilobola lami back.
No.
That is
When
not
once you do that, umhlolo.
umhlobo.
Like
So that
umhlolo.
tells you that in our culture, a divorce, and we don't have a lexicon, a word that is equivalent to divorce in the African languages. Yes, what we know is that there can be misunderstandings which must eventually be resolved.
Yes.
Right. So because of that development in terms of our culture and moving away from African to Western culture, you find that we no longer address conflict the way that we used to. And we do not have the resources now to address issues or conflict the Western way. For example, you need to approach a psychologist
Yes.
in the Western way.
Yes.
You need to approach a social worker the Western way.
Yes.
So, men, if you look at, for example, hospitals or places which makes a man to feel vulnerable and weak, many people say, why men don't go to hospitals or don't seek medical help? The nature of a hospital renders you weaker, and because you become vulnerable, you become dependent on others. And because of the mentality or the approach to life that places a man, we call it a toxic masculinity, meaning that we understand masculinity in a way that is destructive. So you find that because if I go to hospital, 95% of the personnel are women.
Women, yes.
And you want to speak to another man, and the fact that you are feeling a pain in that space, and a pain which you were taught when you were growing up not to express. Now you are forced to express the pain. This is where the rate of suicide comes from. Men, instead of bearing a pain and expressing it, bearing it is one thing, But expressing it is another
another-
thing.
yes.
So men would say, okay, now that there's no more me as a man, let me go.
Let me go.
Then you find the suicides. So the SA Men First, it is saying we are observing, we are taking note of these challenges. Culturally, legally, medically, mentally. So we want to create that space for men to step forward. And we find men stepping forward, as I've said, that last year we had that session with the Office of the Premier in the province working together. And with the sessions that we are providing every Monday through radio, as well as the free consultations for those that cannot afford.
Yes.
We are at Macadamia Medical and Health Center, and we're encouraging men to be the ones that initiate counseling sessions, couple counseling sessions.
Yes, I wanted to come to that.
Yes.
Ne? Where you were talking about where you're encouraging that both partners will come. And most of the time, you will find that it is the woman who will initiate.
Yes.
See, we have a problem here. Let's go and talk to somebody. So you find that the man goes, but not because he really wants to go.
Yes.
Maybe woman has nagged so much that he's like, okay, let's just do it so that I can just
Yes,
ngimthulise
yes.
kancane,
Ngimthulise
yabo?
kancane,
Yes,
yes.
but not that the heart is there.
Is there.
So when we're saying we want men to cry or to voice their feelings their own way,
Yes.
do you find that where it is initiated by the men, there's a better rate of participation in the process, because it's not a once-off, it's a process.
What we are beginning to find since we have started is that there is an increasing number of men who are initiating the sessions.
Okay.
And sessions that are initiated by men have got better outcomes most of the time.
Okay.
The man would come and present his case, his understanding, how much he loves his wife or his partner, and the challenges that he's experiencing. For example, a man would say, hey, at the beginning of the relationship, yes, I cheated. The relationship was still new, and I understand, but that sin does not seem to have been resolved. And now my wife has become a detective. Meaning that for every corner that I take, my phone gets sneaked in and my wife is searching. And sometimes even if the man says, sometimes I just want to step out of the house to avoid all of this noise, I'm blocked. So when a man steps forward and say, these are the challenges that I face, I want to try to avoid being physical with my wife or with my partner. Only if my partner can understand
Then,
1, 2, 3, 4.
yes.
So then sometimes you find that in the beginning of a relationship, naturally, many times, often what we see is that none of the two were single. This one was seeing someone else, and this one was seeing someone else.
Yes.
And women seem to take a bit of exception when that reality comes forward to say, but also it means you were cheating for that other guy.
Person, yeah.
But the women always want to be the cleaner ones when it comes to issues of cheating, because then when you bring that, you would see that they don't take it quite well.
Yeah,
but the men will take it, saying, I did it. But from that point to where we are now, I've been clean. Why must I always be investigated? And sometimes even if I have to respond to something, I have to think twice. Hey, this response, how will it be taken? Even if it's true. So I must present what you want to hear.
Not
And,
the truth.
and eventually, because I would be presenting what you want to, sometimes down the line, you will pick up the truth. That what I presented at the
Was
time
not the truth.
was not the truth, but I had to present that so that there can be peace in the house. So the initiations by men to seek counseling are quite helpful. And for that reason, we want to encourage that a lot.
Yes.
Counseling sessions that are initiated by the women, it takes quite some time before they can actually settle to say, let's now process this.
Let's deal what we actually. Yes.
So we would like to really encourage all stakeholders to actually facilitate that men be those that actually initiate the processes. It's like what we call condom use. If it is initiated by the male person, it is quite often consistently used, as opposed to when it is initiated by the female. So those are some of the benefits of having men to sit and discuss their own issues, but be guided to understand the other gender.
Speaking of that then, in the sessions that you've had to deal with up to now, and in your experience generally, so the man feels this way. Where's the difference between the two? Because you may find that sometimes there's no big deal.
Exactly.
When you look at it, there's no big deal. It's just a matter of what causes this whole big deal out of nothing.
Men can close certain chapters in life. Okay. Women seem to find it very difficult to close chapters. And they will still remain in the relationship. Whereas men, if a man is finding it difficult to close a chapter, the man ends the relationship.
And walks
whereas women, they would not end the relationship. They will remain in the relationship, but continuously subject the other partner to the sins of the past. So a man, if he finds that I can't take it quite often, ends the relationship and goes away. Women, they stay. And quite often you would hear them saying, I will fix things, I will fix him, I will do this, I will make him to live this, I will model him. So the difference is that women hope to make miracles and convert men from something else to something else, of which it's highly impossible. In nature, what a person is, from 0 to 7, from a psychological perspective, from 0 to 7, you take all that into your adulthood.
Yes.
So because you are coming into my life, you are 35, I'm 40, and you hope that you are going to change anything in me. You can't change the way that I think. You can't control the way that I think. You can't control the way that I view the world.
Yes.
Those are the things that seem to be a challenge when it comes to women. Women believe that they can control a man. Whereas men, though they believe, some men do believe that they can control a woman, but that kind of control, when it is trivial, for example, like controlling what to wear today, what not to wear, and sometimes a woman, if instead of addressing a woman would go and address E, and a man is responding to A, but in actual fact, the woman is actually speaking to E. It's not going direct to what, whereas a man often would go direct. I don't want 1, 2, 3.
Maraga, I'm listening to you, ne? And I'm saying, could it be that women, because of what they saw their mothers going through, and you know, when you say a man will walk away if it's not working, if it's not fixable, women have seen mothers from ages, donkey years ago.
Yes.
They have seen mothers go through, and mothers
Staying put,
and making it work even when it's not, trying to raise something that's dead. And women have seen their mothers. So naturally, That is the one part. The
Yes.
second part, could it be that because we have the God-given gift, I don't know whether to call it a gift, of carrying something to life, from an egg to becoming a human being that I give birth to. So naturally, we think, vele we are miracle makers. We are able to create and give life. Could it be that those are the dynamics that makes women to be like that compared to men?
Yeah. You see, let's go again biologically. Women are designed for stability. They desire stability. They are less risk takers. If you go to hospital now, children's ward, the majority of children who with broken arms, you will find it's guys, it's boys. So naturally, men are risk takers. Women want to get things stabilized. They want that stability. So when there is an issue that seems to be attacking that stability, they want to defend it naturally. Whereas men would, even at the age of 55, a man can take a risk and say, I'm going to start afresh. Biologically, it's not something that is easier for a woman. Women, we've got what we call biological clocks. You know that from a certain age, certain biological processes creeps in and you may no longer bear children. But a man at the age of 65 can have a son, can have a daughter. So that comes into this to the space because of the biological limitations which you know. So if you leave this marriage, what are my chances of ever getting another? Then women stay. They stay for that to sustain that stability because they know that the chances of me having something are limited. So you find women in their younger age, they are too forgiving. I mean, in their earlier ages of relationships, they don't take nonsense.
Yes.
But as they mature,
Yes.
things which they were not taking when they were younger, they begin to understand them differently. That's why when the woman is 25 and the guy is 28 and they find cheating, the woman leaves immediately.
Yes.
But when the woman is 48 and the guy is 54, they have to talk about it. And but why would you do this? Why can't you just maybe go and do it far away? Why are you doing it here? So there's a different approach because of the biological desire or inclination towards creating stability. And the biological inclination for stability, it's because you can't raise children in a space which lacks stability. So it comes natural. There must be that stability for a woman to be able to raise their children. So whereas on the other hand, naturally, you find that men across all the animals, except certain types of animals where there's what we call matriarchy, where the leader is a female. But where the male is the leader, patriarchy, you find that it's easy for the men to take the risks. You will find in the Lion Kingdom, when the male comes into a space, he would first kill all the children that he finds there. And the lioness would want to fight to protect their children. But eventually the male lion or the lion will win and then will start a new family. So the issue of stability drives women to stay far too long and to tolerate far too long until death comes. But also traditional or in our culture. In the Zulu culture, when you are handed over as umakoti, you are given instructions by another woman, not by another man. So there's no more room for you here. And you go, you no longer part of us. And ulotsholiwe, it ends there. If you want to come back here, you are told go back to your house. And then the third one is there's so much stigma when a marriage is is terminated. It's seen, society see that as a woman's fault. When a marriage ends, there's so much talk. Hey, that woman could not sustain,
could not keep her home. Yes.
So those issues makes it difficult then for women to live, and therefore they want to protect. So in that struggle to protect, that's where the insults comes in. That's where the attitude that is understood as disrespect, because it's disparate, it's frustrated.
It's cry for help.
She wants to protect what she has, and what else can you expect? This you know that you as a man at 55 you can go start afresh, but the woman at 45 biologically, where can she go and start afresh? She can't go and bear children at 50 years. We do have those exceptional cases, but generally it's known that you as a man, you can go out and start a life and be happily married and have children. But for the women, so women are more inclined to protect, and in that struggle to protect, this is where you find that the women tolerate too much. They take too much, and this taking too much, as we have said, it's what they've seen over a period of time.
Yes.
Umama has always been there because Umama was taught cultural to say, in the Sesotho language they say, Msadi utwala tipa kabukhali, meaning that for you as a woman, even if there is so much pain, you stay there.
Hold on. Because you are a woman, you must hold on.
Yes. So those are the other issues that contribute to what we define as intimate partner violence or domestic violence.
You spoke of, I'm listening to you as you're talking, ne? You spoke of toxic masculinity, ne?
Yes.
Now, what we've described now, it's up to the generation that is probably, the figures are changing now, if you look. Women are walking away now.
Yes.
The narrative is changing.
It's changing.
It's no longer as before. Are we having toxic femininity?
Yes, of course. We do have that, a lot of that. It's just that because of the feministic theories or feministic approach or approach to gender-based violence, when it started, feminism looks at gender-based violence from a perspective that seeks to say we are having violence against women because of patriarchy, because there's more power to men and there's less power to women.
Yes.
But there is research which seems to suggest that that is not true, because we are getting a number of women who are economically independent, who are educationally advanced, who also are caught in that cobweb of staying until death in a marriage. You've got your professional nurses, you've got your medical doctors who are staying because of the other issues of stigma, because of also the issue of biological clock that if I live here and then what. So many women, when they leave relationships or marriages in their later ages, like 45, 50, the reality is for her to get something that will be stable again, he will have to go and find another man, because if you are a woman, you are 45 years of age, the only age category you can go to is 50 and 55.
and 50, just before 50 to 55, once the 30-year-olds.
Yes.
Okay.
But the point I want to drive in is that age category, you don't find single men there.
Yes.
So then the woman becomes forced. Now, she left that marriage because that man was cheating.
Cheating, yes.
But now, where is she going to find a man who is 55 who is singing. And then eventually women find themselves now coming back to share. And then you become a side chick because you could not tolerate a side chick in your own marriage.
yes.
But now you are becoming a side chick. And the trend when now you find that some older women going for the younger boys and
yes,
that.
yes.
But we all know that it's a dream. You can't build a family with a 30-year-old boy when you are 55. You can play and all of that. But the question that we need to understand as society is that, one, the issues of us as Africans moving from African to Western, it's something that is evolving and is something that we need to embrace, meaning that we also need to begin not to only see things the traditional way, but also to see things the modern way, meaning that before we marry, step one, go for pre-marriage counseling.
Yes, yes.
Get to know the person that you are getting married to. At least understand that their weaknesses and their strength, so that we know nobody is perfect. But at least when you go there, know that this one has got a weakness when it comes to this and this. And how am I going to mitigate that weakness?
Yes, so that it doesn't become an issue.
So that it doesn't become an issue. So with pre-marriage counseling and couple counseling, and before you decide also even to divorce, we say there is divorce counseling. We want you to come and sit. We do have instances where a couple would sit, and then after we've taken them through the sessions, you find that they find that in actual fact they should resolve their differences and continue with their marriage. So that's one a request or one prayer that we have in the public, in the general society of South Africa, to say we have noted that love alone does not sustain a marriage.
No, it doesn't.
Love is like an ignition in a car. It only assists you to start the car, to get the engine running. But to keep the car moving, you've got a clutch, you've got to put a gear, you've got to put petrol, you've got to maintain the car, you've got to put tires, all of those things to keep the car moving. So marriage is like that.
Yes.
Many people who are divorced, they will tell you, I still love my husband. I still love my wife. So that tells you, Guti, we can't build relationships only on love.
No.
And some people say, but we are so romanticized. We are so.
It's too much. I think it's what we during our time we grew up reading about Milton Boone.
Yes.
And then there was all these things that we watch on TV.
Exactly.
TV gives you. It doesn't show you everyday life.
It doesn't show you everyday life. Doesn't show you the real life. You look at how marriages were planned. We, as Africans, we from there where the person that you will marry would have been predetermined by your family to say, your father will tell you, no, we don't marry from that family.
Yes.
And then you will listen to that. Today, no, I love this person. I love this person. We forget that love alone cannot sustain a marriage.
It doesn't.
So with the Indian culture in the most, they're still practicing that. Their marriages are often planned. And those who are, like, you will know that one very popular player in one of the African countries just got married through a pre-arranged marriage. It's a multi-millionaire, but they still do things the African way. But South Africans who have moved so much fast to Western life, to the extent that we no longer know whether we are still Africans or we are Western. Maybe Hugh Masekela was correct when he said, many years to come, there will be something called no, they used to be people called Africans. You see, so we are fast moving towards that direction, but it's not assisting us much because in the process we get so much mess. For example, we know that in our African culture, when you marry, actually you don't change your surname. This changing of surname, Mrs. Zitha, Mrs. What, it's Western.
It's Western.
But we've made it so much of our own. Tina, when you marry to me, if you are a Mashiko, you become Mashiko. You would have noted with Jacob Zuma's wives, none of them is called Mrs. Zuma. It's Mantuli, it's Makumalo, that is that. You never get to own that person. But the Western culture taught us that like you own this person, it's yours, it's your property.
So much that they change their name and everything.
We do need to begin to see things in a modern way, but bear in mind what our culture is, and bear in mind that where we are now, and where we were yesterday, we'll never be able to go back to yesterday. We have to fast track our way of doing things so that eventually we can then fight and end gender-based violence in South Africa. We can fight and end intimate partner violence in South Africa, because we are number one in that space.
Yes.
As South Africa, we are number one in killing our women. We are number one in killing. South Africa is, other than on gender-based violence, we are number one in the world in terms of murder rate. There are more people killed in South Africa than you would find in Palestine, where there is a war.
Where there's a,
Syria, all those places where there is a war. Less people are killed there than here in South Africa.
And that tells you that there is something that we have lost in the fiber of who we are. As I'm listening to you talking about, having to understand we can never go back to yesterday fully, but where are we headed? Let's define that so that we can be able then to find ourselves and say, this is the kind of people or a nation that we are, and this is how because now I see us moving to extremes.
Yes.
Where now the younger generation is also in its own extreme. So we are moving, I don't know, and at a very fast race, at a very fast pace towards confusion, because now those that have seen the mothers begezelering, the today generation says, I can never tolerate what you tolerated.
Yes.
No, that is why I'm never going to get married.
Yes.
No, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to. You have more. In our times, it was unheard of someone say, I don't want to have kids.
No.
But you have more, so it means also the future is at risk, because you have more young ones saying, I don't want to have kids. I choose not to have kids. I don't mind getting married as long as I don't want to have kids.
Yes.
So we are moving to extremes. It's like asinayo. We don't have middle ground.
Yes.
Of saying this is who we are, and that's what we need to work towards.
Yeah, who we are. There's pillars. When you build a house like this, there would be pillars. You can change the curtains. You can change the paint. But there's things that you cannot change. When you tamper with those, then the whole structure will collapse.
Yes.
So as Africans, we seem to have not only tampered with the curtains, and we've tampered with the pillars of who we are. That as Africans, this is the person that I am. This is what is expected of me. This is my role as a man in a family. This is my role as a woman in my family. This is my role as a child in a family. Now you find too much space given to children to discuss issues relating to their parents, and then the child is advising the mother that, hey, you can no longer stay in this marriage. Those things are destructive psychologically. The mind of that child is not yet ready to manage that kind of a load.
Yes.
So because of the confusion that we find ourselves in, whether we are Western, and that Western culture, we can't live it, we don't understand it, and the African culture as well, we no longer understand it. So we are in the middle of nowhere. So because we just saw the September month as a Heritage Month, some of the things that we must preach there are things that speaks to who we are in the true sense of being an African, understanding that there's things which we can't do away with because that's what define who we are. And we have to ensure that we actually preach that, we actually reinforce that in this generation, to understand that if you are a child, there are boundaries. There's things which you can say to your mother, and there's things that you cannot say to your mother.
Yes.
Even if you feel that you know better, you take a position that seeks to say, this is my mother, and I can't be insulting my mother. I can't be saying things like this to my mother. Even if you've got a doctorate in what, you still give your mother a space to be your mother.
Yes.
Because you did not submit an application like a job to be a child here. You are a child biologically, and whether your mother is wrong or right, it's not for you to bring that up. It's something that if you really strongly feel that, no, my mom is not really doing okay, you can speak to another relative to address that.
That's when
that's
comes
conflict management.
Yes.
We have had a few incidents where we find a son assaulting the mother. It's because of that lack of understanding that even if my mom is wrong, I can't look at her as a wrong person. I rather go. So because of this confusion, you find more young boys hitting their mothers. So it's a whole lot of responsibility that we have as a society. Hence, then organizations like SMN First, let's see what role can we play. Let's see how we can address in rebuilding. Yes.
And you're talking about who we are as an African and all that, and it goes back. As Christian, it goes back, the principles are the same. Children, honor your parents so that it may be well with you.
Exactly.
You know, you cannot uphakamise isandla sakho. Honor your parents so that it may be well, so that you may have a long life, so that you may. So we miss somewhere, somehow, we've missed the mark, and we find ourselves.
When Noah's son saw his father naked, one of them took a blanket as vimba ngayo and walked so that he can cover
the nakedness of their,
But it's the same thing when you see your mom wrong or your father that is wrong about something. It's not for you as a child, as an African, to expose the wrongfulness of your mom or the wrongfulness of your father, because this is the only father you have. You can't trade in your father or trade in your mother in our culture. But with the Western culture, you can do those things. So these are the pillars. Tina, I can't disown you as my child. Whether they say you have killed whoever, you have raped whoever, you remain my child, and I must be the one that will bury you. You will not bury yourself. So those are one of the pillars that we must understand, that as we move integrating into other cultures like the Western cultures, there are pillars that we can't tamper with. Respect for an African
it's a non-negotiable.
Person. It's non-negotiable.
Yes.
If you lose respect as a child, then everything would collapse. Things are collapsing, we've got children that were referred to as Amapara, Bonyaupe. All of these things, they come from that individualistic culture.
Yes.
In our African collective culture, we don't have intandane or someone who will go there without parents. No, everyone in our culture as Africans has got a parent, because we say ingane ikhuliswa community. So it's not an individual responsibility to bring up a child.
That is why when we grew up, if umama, the parent was next door, will come find you a corner. You hide.
You hide.
Because she had the right to give you a hiding. You know,
There and
what are you
there,
doing
on
with
the
boys in
spot.
the corner? She will explain when she gets home that because it took the entire
Exactly.
nation. But now, in us adopting these wrong
Western
cultures,
culture and
my child,
adopting-
what
yes.
gives you the right to talk to my child? And yeah, may God help us. May God help us to
Yes,
to go back to to the
yes,
essence.
I want us to quickly go back to the point you raised on this generation saying, no, I don't want to have children, no, this and that. The reality is that we've got more children that are born out of wedlock.
Yes.
In all the races, the Indians, white and coloreds, blacks, our children mostly are born out of wedlock. So that means our children grow in a space where there will be no opportunity for them to learn norms and values. Last year we learned that over 150 girls between the age of 11 and 18 were found to have pregnant in Gauteng alone. So and over and above that, in South Africa, almost half of our young population, they are not making it through to matric.
Yes.
So for every 10, for example, that would have registered grade one, only maybe less than half will make it to matric.
12, yes.
So
Yes.
the challenge that we are heading to as a country is that we will have more people who are dependent, and that would begin to eat into the coffers of the state, and you will no longer be able to have a productive society that can be able to have money so that we can have clinics. We are getting, in South Africa, we are getting more and more outsiders coming in to work as doctors, coming in to work as nurses, coming to work as engineers. And all of this, you can trace it back to how we are raised and how the issue of respect is being ignored. The issue of us as Africans understanding, the issue of us as African men understanding what role do I have to play in my family. You as a mom understanding what role should you be playing as a mother in the family, and the child understanding their role as children. So eventually all these social ills, they contribute to one day where we will find that South Africa will be more foreign-led than native South Africans. Because now when you go to institutions of higher learning, you find that the professors there are from outside. You go, you want the doctors, you find outsiders. You do not find outsiders only selling or opening shops. When you go to our towns, you will see that the majority of those towns are owned by foreigners. We cannot own anything if we don't own ourselves.
How do you? Because it starts with
you have to own yourself first, respect yourself,
Yes.
understand your space, ekhaya where you are raised. If you want to be a parent while you are a child at the same time playing two roles, then that also
doesn't work.
not going to work. Then eventually in our adulthood we find serious challenges as we are finding.
Yes.
So all these organizations like SMN First, we are not yet there addressing the main issues. We are still trying to address the symptoms.
It's too big
Yes.
an elephant. So you then try to say, let me clear here
Yes.
to get to the
To
We are
get
about-
there.
when you're dealing with a huge field,
Yes.
you've got to, before you actually get to the actual field,
Yeah.
funule
You've
share.
got to leisure,
Yes,
and then you get there.
So
Yeah.
we are there.
We are there.
But Sipho,
yes.
time.
Thank you very much.
We can go on and on. But thank you for coming through. Thank you for coming through. I think we've touched on, as we say, it's too big an elephant that we can eat in one day. We will come back, and I would like for us to really go to the fundamentals. We've touched on them now. To say, what are the fundamentals of having a healthy human being?
Functional
Yes,
family.
and a human being that will then start from, it starts from a family. What are those foundations? And we'll build onto that. We'll definitely have another session when we do that. Right now, I pressed for time, but thank you for coming through.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for this wonderful conversation. I believe that, you know, the intimate conversations family would really benefit from this. Your last final parting shots that you want our viewers to remain with, mpago wabo, that they must remain with until the next time we meet again as we wrap up.
This is one, as SMN First, we believe strongly that we have to start with our children. And with our children, we make sure that we provide a space for them, healthy, functional families where our children can grow. Two, to our fathers, to our brothers, please, even if the relationship is not working with the mother of your child, make the relationship with your child work. Because you can divorce the wife, you can separate with your girlfriend, but you can't separate from yourself, because your child is yourself. Three, we are working very hard as men to make sure that even men who do not have resources, when there is a need in the family to get counseling, please come to us. You Google there, you get in through Psychology Today, you will find us as SMN First, and we are available whether you've got money or you do not have money. We assist to make sure that we drive functional families as South Africa.
Oh, what a conversation, hey? What a conversation. Thank you so much, Zitha. Thank you so much for coming through. And you've heard his parting shots. You know, we've said so much about that when you empower a woman, you empower the you know that the whole family, so community will be taken care of. But imagine when men lead. Imagine if men rise up to their position and they take up according to what was originally intended for men to lead. Imagine what kind of a society we will have. So we are having this conversation to just trigger and say, in the little spaces where you are, let's have this conversation. And I'm glad that I know that I've got men that are following. Let's get other men to go out there and go to a space where they can cry the best way that they can cry. And yes, we may not expect them to twala tandla enhloko and all that, but speak up. We cannot continue having these high rates of suicide. We cannot continue having these high rates of gender-based violence, intimate partner violence. We can't continue to have that. We need to have a better future. We need to, when we are gone, when history judges us, history must say there was a generation that stood up and made a difference. Don't you want to be part of that? Surely I know that I want to. I may not be a man, but we can have this kind of conversations that brings healing to the society. And that is what we are trying to do. Until next time, did you subscribe? If you have not subscribed, subscribe. Subscribe. Click the notification button and tell somebody else. But this is kind of content that is like, you've got to have this content. So until next time, take care.